class. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your assignment for Chapter 12 on mid-latitude cyclones. I've put a worksheet on our classroom on Blackboard, and I want you to look at the chart. This is the chart that goes with your assignment, and this assignment is a little difficult because it's going to combine everything that we have learned at this point. We've got to know not only what's going on at the surface or the upper level, but what's going on in between. So let's look at all three of these together and see how one influences the other. So first, let's look at the top, the upper level map. It's a 300 millibar map. Now, the solid lines going around the low pressure are our contour lines, which we talked about. That is basically the equivalent of an isobar on a surface map. The winds flow parallel to the contour lines. And since weather in the U.S. goes from west to east, we can tell just by looking at it that the winds are going to come from this direction, around below the low, and up this direction. So that can tell us what direction the wind's going. I also want you to notice how the contour lines here at position 1 are getting closer together. Basically, it's squeezing a bunch of air into a smaller path. And not all of the air fits in that little path. So as a result of this, what we call convergence, the result is that some of the air is pushed downward towards the surface. So again, convergence means descending air below it. When we have descending air, that typically is going to give us clear skies. Now notice at the surface, we'll take a sneak peek, we have high pressure because that air is descending, adding more mass to the column, it's pushing harder, we have a high pressure. And high pressure is usually associated with clear skies or very few clouds. All right, back to our contour lines. If we continue the wind to flow over to position 2, here the contour lines are getting further apart. We have what we call divergence. The contours are spreading apart, so there's more room for air, and that is actually going to draw up air from the surface. So, convergence, descending air. Divergence is going to mean rising air. And now when warm, moist air rises, we often end up with clouds. So we have a low pressure. We're probably going to end up with precipitation and clouds when there is divergence. So just by looking at an upper air map can give us an indication that in this area, we're probably going to have fair weather with few clouds. We see divergence, that's going to tell us rising air, probably precipitation. All right, next let's look at the dashed lines here. These are our isotherms because we're talking about temperature. So we know that the air is blowing this direction because we already talked about that. So you have air that's moving from very cold into warmer area. So we're blowing in colder air. As a result, at the bottom, we ended up with a cold front. We'll get to that again later. And over here at position 2, you have air that is warmer blowing into a colder region. All right, now let's move down to our mid-level, our 500 millibars. What you need to know in this area right here, the questions are going to ask you about rising and sinking air. Now again, that goes back to where there's convergence and divergence. So you got to look back up to the 300 level to know what is going on at the 500 millibar level. All right. And last, we're going to go down to the surface map. Now, this is where our mid-latitude cyclones come in. We talked about the stages earlier. We have our cold fronts being pushed along by cold, dense air a high pressure develop behind it because of the sinking, we have convergence, so descending air. We have our warm sector pushing warm air this direction, developing a warm front here. In this area, this is where our cold air is. So you're more likely to have snow or cold rain develop in this part near our low. In this area, number 5, that is our warm sector. That's where you expect to find warm air. And it's probably not going to be raining in this area. And remember, with our cold front here, we're probably going to find some stormy weather. So you might find some thunderstorms. But shortly behind that, where you have 6, you're getting closer to the high pressure area where it's clearing up. So as this cold front moves through, an area would experience some thunderstorms probably, and it wouldn't last but a couple of hours. And behind it, you're going to have colder air and drier weather with probably clearing skies. So that in a nutshell kind of sums it up. Hopefully I didn't confuse you, and I hope that helped. But if you do have any questions, please email me. I would be more than happy to explain it in a different way. So use that when you are doing your assignment, your homework. That will help greatly. And I'll be posting a review for your test in a couple of days. So again, let me know if you have any questions, and I pray you have a great weekend.